Damn it, I remember the time science killed the rainbow, and it's irritated me ever since then. Okay, I admit it. This is what happened. So I was reminded of a particular experience I had. I was reading an article on Medium, and basically it was, I couldn't even tell you exactly what it was, but basically it was somebody explaining their experience with encountering the beauty of a rainbow, right? They were just sort of being in the presence of it and looking at looking at like what is it made of and what does it mean and what does it make you feel, right? Um, and like normal, you go and you read the comments, and something happened, right? I don't know what it is, but I've never been right ever since then.
Whoa, that's a full rainbow. All the way. Double rainbow. Oh my God.
To talk about rainbows, you're talking raindrops. Okay. Right. What we have is a model here of a raindrop.
And a raindrop.
Woo! Oh, wow! Woo! Yeah! Oh my! Oh my! Oh my God! Look at that!
You would turn on the sun over there.
Captured the sun in here.
Have here the sun.
It's starting to even look like a triple rainbow. Oh my God! It's full on double rainbow all the way across the sky. Oh my God!
Spreading out of colors.
Oh, look at that. You've created our own little rainbow right here.
You'll see it go blue, green, red, and then disappear entirely. And the point is you're currently 42 degrees away from the direction that the light's shining in from.
What does this mean?
So the next time you do some painting or see a rainbow, give a moment's thought to the electromagnetic waves that produce all of the vibrant colors we have grown to appreciate.
Oh my God!
Sometimes you'll see the effect of a double rainbow.
Double rainbow, oh my God.
There is often another rainbow above the main rainbow. And in that case, red is at the bottom and violet is at the top. In other words, it's the other way round. And the reason for this, we won't do the detail of the mathematics. The reason for this is that you can have a situation where the rain actually has 3 reflections in the rainbow, in the drop of rain, and the light goes in, it's reflected 3 times.
It's starting to even look like a triple rainbow.
And it comes out this way, and that will give you a rainbow higher in the sky and inverse.
You would turn on the sun over there.
Captured the sun in here.
Let's get it down here. Higher in the sky and inverse in terms of its colours. So the main rainbow will have red at the top, violet at the bottom. The secondary bow, if you can see it, will be violet at the top and red at the bottom.
Woo! Yeah!
And that's because there's one extra reflection in the raindrop that gives that effect. I hope that explains how a rainbow is formed.
Basically, somebody said, well, you know, a rainbow is just the refraction of light off of raindrops. And it was in that moment that I just come to realize how science has a really bad habit of just murdering everything that's beautiful. It's really good at that. It is really good at just killing the beauty of things. And so really ever since that point, I have been, you could call it the search for the re-enchantment, right? I think this is the moment for me where re-enchantment became a real thing. Something that I was sick and tired of the scientific way of vivisection, right? Something Sherry would tell you about vivisection, right? Where you have to rip something apart, you have to kill it in order to figure out what it is. And when you figure out the little bits and pieces of what you think that is, are you really even looking at the same thing anymore? Honestly. And so you have everyday people who are armed with this information, this knowledge, which really does them no good, right? Do you need to know that a rainbow is a refraction of light off of raindrops? I didn't need to know that. And honestly, there's so many things that are similar to this where you're filled with these useless facts, these useless bits of information, and you can't even sit back and appreciate the things that actually matter in life. So I guess something else is sort of it really got me good, right? Between becoming a new Christian and still very much experiencing the spiritual reality of everything. So between the death of a rainbow and the spiritual nature of becoming a Christian, this concept of re-enchantment is very not only intriguing but necessary. It's completely necessary for me. I need to find that beauty in life again. I don't want it to just be articles and what have you. So I think this is why I've been fascinated with Dr. Martin Shaw. And it seems like there's a number of people who also seem to have been captivated by his work, his stories, what he's about. Like, his presence is really, it's just comforting. And there's something about this. I'm going to be a storyteller, a mythologist sitting around a campfire with a pocket full of stories. I just find that so intriguing that I think I would like that as well. I was listening to a conversation between Brad and Lucas the other day, and Brad said a similar thing, right? To just be able to sit around a campfire and tell a great story. This used to be something that was done all the time. And, we are just completely, we are story-making machines. I hate the machine metaphor, but we live in stories. We are stories. Everything we do is saturated in story. So why not become a better storyteller? I don't think it's going to hurt anything. I think it could even save the world. Now, another thing was that this kind of reminded me of Goethe. And when I was thinking about the rainbows and thinking about light and the colors, there was a really nice little documentary about Goethe and his color theory, which I'm going to show some clips of here.
Newton, the British scientist, constructed a triangular prism. And in 1704, he presented his theory of refraction and color. In his experiment, he shone a sunbeam through a prism, thus refracting its light. He called the colors that thus arose a spectrum. He concluded that the colors were components of white light. Goethe knew of Newton's theory. To test it, he borrowed some prisms from a friend. He looked at a white wall and thought he would see a spectrum. But all he saw was the white wall. But when he looked in the direction of the window, something happened. In the boundary between the glazing bars and the window panes, colors could be seen. Newton had concluded that the colors were contained by light alone. But to his amazement, Goethe now saw through the prism that colors only arose in the boundary between light and darkness. And he also saw more colors than those Newton had observed. But where there was nothing but white, there were no colors. Here are the colors Newton and Goethe saw. Here are the colors only Goethe saw. Newton didn't see these. It was as if he only included half of the colors. Goethe included both spectra in his color wheel. In his experiment, Newton tried to isolate sunlight in a darkened room, and then from geometrical descriptions, he deduced his theory. Abstract observation and isolated experiments are the foundation stone of the natural sciences, which our modern technological society is built upon. For the last 200 years, the watchword of classical science has been objectivity. Goethe's view was that sensory perception was important because it links us to the world and gives us knowledge of it. His investigations remained within the reality we can see and sense. He emphasized that it was important to observe the phenomena of color without pleasure or displeasure, without expectations or prejudice. If we see them as they really are, they open up and tell other stories. According to Newton and the Western cultural heritage, colors are solely a matter of light. So we have never concerned ourselves with darkness. The natural sciences call darkness the absence of light. But you can't observe a ray of light or a ray of darkness. That is not a ray unless it is surrounded by darkness or light. In visual reality, light and darkness are equals. Therefore, Goethe says, we cannot talk about light without talking about darkness too. For example, if we look at these rays striking the mirror, we discover that light and darkness can both reflect, not the light itself. Light is invisible and only becomes visible when it encounters matter such as the moon, the earth, a hand, or some countryside. Smoke is also matter, particles that reflect light. The smoke is what allows us to see the light in this box, just as we only see the light across the lake because it strikes the mist. Now we've covered the hole in the box with glass so the smoke cannot enter. The beam of light is still crossing the box, but we can't see it. In itself, light is invisible. You might say that darkness is space, space containing invisible light. We associate light with matter and darkness with space. Light and darkness form a fundamentally opposing pair. Goethe called it the light-darkness polarity. Goethe called it the primordial phenomenon. In Goethe's scientific method, then, the colors are described where we see them. So he insists that we ourselves are part of the experiments. We cannot separate the seen from the seer, he says. Newton theorized about an isolated ray of light, but there is no such thing in visual reality. We now observe the way the boundary colors arise as the prism opens. Yellow-red below, blue-violet above. The yellow and blue marginal spectrum arises, culminates, and disappears as the image is shifted. If we substitute a bar for the square, reducing the distance between light and dark, something else happens. As the image shifts, the two boundary colors arise as they did earlier, but because the gap between them is smaller, they meet, and yellow and blue mix. The color green appears. We observe that Newton's spectrum only arises as a particular phase of Goethe's two boundary colors, when they are close together. It is the distribution of light and darkness in the image that determines whether Newton's spectrum arises. Newton concentrated on a theoretical definition of the colors. Goethe explored them as dynamic processes.
There's just something about the way Goethe does things. And the way that he goes about it is inspiring. It's very inspiring. And he has this way of, but you can't separate you from the thing which you're trying to observe. Right? This is one of the fundamental issues with observer science or objective science. Sorry. Right? This is the problem with objective science, is that you still have to do it all. Right? You can't separate yourself from it. It's pointless. Really, it's pointless. So you have to be a part of it. So when you look at Goethe's color theory and this interplay between darkness and light, and it's the boundary edges, the threshold, and this is where you never see light without darkness, and you never see color without light and darkness and the boundaries between the two. And then this gets into the whole cosmic mixture of light and dark and this battle. And, you can only, light's invisible until it hits you. And then everything, like you're only ever looking at illuminated particles. So to just sit here and think like, oh, light is just this electromagnetic spectrum. Ugh. Sorry. That's vivisection, right? You're just trying to destroy the beauty in it. And I'm just really not interested in that right now. So I think that right now, telling stories around a campfire sounds way more interesting than listening to the next theory about quantum mechanics. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to build my little pocket full of stories. And I think I'm going to just continuously work on my own story. I was talking to my wife earlier today, and she's got some really amazing stories, and I think I'm going to try to help her tell her stories. Maybe write them down, figure out how to do that. I don't know. I guess another story thing that I have been thinking about is I was watching a show the other day, and it's about there's a guy who's experiencing dementia or Alzheimer's. Now, unfortunately, this is something that I have dealt with before with my grandmother, and so it's definitely challenging when you sit face to face with a loved one and they call you by someone else's name, but you smile and you nod because you love them, and you don't want to hurt them and tell them that your memory's not working like it's supposed to. So I guess that's always in the back of my mind of what that's like. And then watching the show kind of reminded me of, well, like, what happens if that did happen to you? Right? What happens if you had to wake up every morning and you had to give yourself the highlight reel of who you are and what's important to you and what should you be remembering today? I just think there's something about that thought that is slightly disturbing, but yet it may be quite inspiring too, to make you dig pretty deep into yourself and figure out what's really important to you. So I think that's something I'm going to start putting some serious thought to.